Excuse me. Is that better or do you want the side?
That's good.
The first one is fine.
That one. I feel like the idea.
Number one.
I can do better with.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Wait, how
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
well, housekeeping items, here is familiar with both exits and the location of the restrooms. Is there anything anyone else has on the housekeeping? Committee members and guests, I think we're welcoming back. Yeah, Mary. Hi. Hi, thanks for coming back. Is there anyone in on Zoom? No, not yet? Okay, if somebody pops up, let us know. Thank you. And the meeting minutes from August 24th. What's printed up at the top right-hand corner says August 24th. We did have a little issue with the date up there, and I think an email was done with the correct date. If not, you get the correct date here in print. And I would also point out to you that on the others present, the first name there is Dan Scanlon, his Fisher Fire Department. Assume he is no longer with Fisher Fire Department. Been suggested to us that we take away Fisher Fire Department and just leave Zoom to indicate he came in virtually for the meeting as a guest. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. With that, is there anyone who has any suggestions, corrections, additions, alterations? Okay, then Bonnie, for your records, we will get the minutes accepted as they have presented here. Thank you. Under the committee organization, New York State Open Meetings Law, again, I would just remind you, if you have anything that you want included in the meeting by way of material and you email it to Denise, we're supposed to have everything posted 24 hours in advance of the meeting. So if it could go on Monday, that's preferable. That way, if it's late on Monday, first thing Tuesday, it gets posted. Just for awareness, because as we continue on with our meetings, there may be more information coming in from you that we want to make sure is included in the meeting. So please be aware of that. The meeting schedule, the forecasted meeting schedule we reviewed the last time. We just remind you that that's there. It does remain fluid, however, depending on where we are in terms of our progress and how quickly we can accomplish things. So please use that as a preliminary forecast for your own use. Notebooks. Again, there's a 3-hole punch here. If you have anything that you want punched, it doesn't come to you punched. You're welcome to do that before you leave. Communication, as far as I know, is working well through Denise. Great. Okay,
Yes.
terrific. Any questions at this point? All right, moving on then to the committee charge. Task 1 is where our focus really needs to be. See if we can get more than about 50% complete with this. No pressure, just wanting to make sure that we keep our focus on these things. So under the status area there, governance and jurisdictions, I have some documents for you here tonight. The first one you'll see is the studies report. It was part of the report that I did for the village and town in 2016. So if you turn to page 2, anything that's there in red font is new since 2016. And if you go to the last page, down at the bottom of the table, you will see that indicated to you is what was in the initial report. And then in red font, you will see some information about what has been added. And thank you for those of you who have been working on this with us. I do have one more item to add to that the next time, so it does remain in the draft format. And that is a study from the village on circulation, accessibility, and parking. So that will be added. It was done prior to the comprehensive plan for the village, which is the last entry on the table. So we'll put that on for next time. Thank you, Gary. Any questions on this? Since we met the last time, I pulled some information from town hall, village hall with Brian South and Mount Jerry, and also from the Mendon Fire District. So thank you all for the work on this piece. The next handout you have here is 3-hole punch. It's for municipal resources. And basically, in looking at governance and jurisdiction, I think I mentioned that there are some things that town boards do, some things that village boards do, and some things that districts do, and they're not all consistent one municipality to the other. However, they do have implication and value for fire protection within the town of Mendon, which is the purview of our committee work. So under resources, you will see what the resource is by identity. And then in the other columns titled town, district, and village, you will see if those resources go hand in hand with the village, the town, fire district. And I would just note for you on the village column, you'll see that there is one board with an X, because within the last couple of years, the village has consolidated their planning board and their zoning board of appeals into one board with both authorities. Down on the bottom, is the second table, contract for service. Again, municipalities are authorized to contract for services. And under the town column, we know that typically through the fire contract for the fire protection district and the ambulance contract for the town outside the village. The town also contracts for public water service. And if you go over to the village column, you'll see that they also contract for public water service with the water board. And then because of the situation with the jurisdiction of the fire departments, the 911 subscriber agreements are with the village fire department, and with the Mendon Fire District for the Mendon Fire Department. That is an arrangement with the jurisdiction for the fire service in the areas within Monroe County. So every village that has a fire department has a subscriber agreement. Every district has a subscriber agreement. So you will see that the town does not have 911 subscriber agreement. Fire department. So hopefully this is helpful in helping you understand what is outside the functional capability of the fire department, but still necessary to fire protection operation. We can talk a little bit more later on as we further discuss governance and jurisdiction to ferret out some of these responsibilities. And if you want in any more detail what those responsibilities, what the obligations, what the services, you certainly can cover that. But just for your awareness, this is a quick and easy reference. That it's not just the departments that have vested interest. Any questions on that? Under the current capacities on the agenda, see the fire departments, both Honeoye Falls and Mendon are listed there. And as you know, we're still working through data collection and it's graphic depiction for you. And I would look first to Anthony to see if there's anything that we need to add back from tonight that we didn't get to the first round.
There'll still be some more data coming, finished a handful of mutual aid response, a box updates for those missing calls today. I'm still putting some information. Around how- So we're hoping we'll get to the end of it. Yep.
Okay, that's good. How about Mendon?
We're in the same.
So you're both continuing to work and making progress, but it's not there with the depiction.
Correct. And I think training is probably going to be the last part that comes through. Just, I know we've been waiting for some information from the state. So, we're getting there.
Okay. So again, whenever it's ready, then it's ready to be presented. So whatever you have, whenever you have it. Okay. All right. Any questions of either Anthony or Chief Kester? Okay, let's go on to mutual assistance. And you have an initial draft of another table. Again, this is meant to show in the center the mutual assistance agency. The X means that that agency is going with or to that fire department on some prearrangement. It's mutual assistance. It's not a wait call for mutual aid when the jurisdiction of the fire department arrives on scene and says, we need more help. This has been prearranged so that when Honey Falls or Mendon is a call for dispatch, these departments are rolling with them in dispatch simultaneously, with a couple of seconds of delay as the departments are dispatched. But it's not like a conventional mutual aid where the department gets to the scene, sees they need more resources, goes back to the dispatcher and says, we need mutual aid. So
they always go with.
well, depending on the type of call.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay, but as we look at this, a couple more things and then we'll get into some questions.
Okay.
The categories topped by the depiction called arrangement, we need to understand from the departments what that arrangement is. Is it a verbal agreement? Is it a written agreement like a contract would be? Or is it an arrangement that's made in, and I'm going to say in writing, not formally, but it's in writing at the 911 center so that when Mendon gets a call or Honey Falls gets a call, the dispatchers know on this call, Mendon and Honey Falls want these departments to go with them now. So there can be an arrangement where the departments have gone to the dispatch center and said, on this call, type of call in this area by maybe our box number, send this department, send these departments with us. So again, is it an agreement just between the two departments? And if that's the case, is that what's with the dispatch center? Or do you have something in writing that indicates that this is a more formal arrangement? And until it changes in writing, this is agreed by both departments and their authorities, let's say.
Mendons are all with a distance.
All of them. Okay, so as we look at this list, the mutual assist department, column going down the middle, is an abbreviated version of the departments. So let's just go through that quickly. In Monroe County, we're looking at Rush, Henrietta, Pittsburgh, Bushnell's Basin, East Rochester, Brighton, Egypt, Scottsville, and Mumford. In Ontario County, we're looking at Fishers, Ionia, West Bloomfield, East Bloomfield, Victor, Bristol, and Richmond. In Livingston County, Lima, and East Avon. Some of these 4-letter abbreviations are right out of 911. Some of them are not, and I just took the conventional way of expressing them to what would make sense to you. So Mendon's list of X's came off their box information. So all of their calls for all of their boxes indicate the use of these mutual assistance departments that are marked with an X. Honeoye Falls X's came from a phone call I had with Pete Henry at the firehouse, who basically said, these are our primary mutual assistance companies. So I'm gonna look at Anthony and say, where you have others, will you please help me put X's in the boxes? Or if they're not like treated like these are, but yet they're mutual assistance, then we have to define how each one is, or what's the difference in the call outs.
Right. I know the chief's working on that, and you should have similar information to correspondence, and this does look accurate.
Okay,
First of all.
so today we're gonna go with this until somebody from the fire service tells me that this needs to be different.
I have not.
You do? You don't
Yeah.
know? Okay,
I just did it last year, and that's for 1 year. So,
but is this, are the
Yes,
X's in the right?
the only difference is East Avon is added. And I think Mumford is not on.
You want me to take it off or you want to?
No, let me wait, and then I'll send the current one to Denise.
That was separate.
I don't have the pretty map, but I have it in the spreadsheet.
Okay,
I will send Denise.
so I don't know that for our work, we need to define every column of the box. But if we know that either you do,
Right.
obviously, but I don't know that we need that unless you tell me you want.
I do think we should define the tanker task force, because that's drastically different than what Marigold is.
Okay, then
So-
we can do that.
That would really show the difference there. The number, I would imagine you look
Right.
through first alarm assignments, not necessarily through.
This is all the way
Second,
through our
third.
second one.
That's through your second, yeah.
Right.
I
So,
took every department.
so ours would increase as well, but I would say for your normal high hazard incident such as large structure fire, we have a few more in here, but probably not the same amount as what's shown with respect to your tanker task
And the
force.
difference in Mendon is we have a large force that's not hired. So we add 2 tanker task force, which is a group of tankers and then a fill side engine. So that's why we have so many more companies.
Well, maybe what we should do is take the tanker task force on its own table and keep the rest here as just a general outline,
We could do that.
whatever makes sense to you, but I don't want to bog down in one. I don't want to lump everything together if it's not a good perspective. So we
Yeah.
want that tanker task force separated out of there and simplify this. That's okay.
Yeah, I think it's important to show the tanker task force, because it does show the difference in the 2 districts or 2 areas. But
Does your updated version look similar to that box man? To the-
no, it doesn't. I don't have an updated box map like that. It's just a spreadsheet.
Thanks.
So we're gonna do more on this
I don't
with the
actually
tanker
read this.
task force. And we're gonna,
Yeah,
Sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
sure,
So tanker task force, I'm, based on what you're saying, I'm guessing it's every department that has a tanker. If the call is somewhere where there's not public water,
Right.
depend on them to come and get water there from
exactly.
wherever. Is that, am I
Yep.
interpreting
Yep.
that correct?
That's exactly right. So we don't have public water. We have tanker task force set up. And we have 2 of them. One is called on the working fire, then you have to ask for the second one. And it's a group of tankers and then an additional engine to set up the fill site. And the fill site, they would go to either a pond or a hydrant. They would set up an area where they could fill the tankers. It's a lot more labor intensive. So. And that's a large part of our southern part of our district.
Hold that thought because when we get to the hydrant map. Anything else on mutual assistance? Monroe County Water Authority, part of jurisdiction. That's what information is on here. I'll give you a little bit about a public benefit corporation, where his authority, and then specifically about the water authority. And the hydrant map along with that. But just wanted to show you most of this information. You'll see is credited back to the Water Authority report, their website. Some of the information came through in their 2015 report. I did my report in 2016. They are a year previous for their annual report. So where you see the annual report for 2021, that is the most updated information from them in an official capacity without a specific call or a specific question related to need to know today what's going on. You'll see in red on the first page and on the second page the term old appendix. That is documentation that's carried in the 2016 report that I did. I don't know if you want a copy of the contract with the Water Authority for the town and the village in this report as an appendix. I don't know if you want the map of the Water Authority's geography, goes to Genesee County and quite extensive. But if you do, that would be on the first page. And the contracts with the village are the red old appendices on the second page. If you, board members, village representatives, feel it's important that it is contained in the appendix of this report, I'm happy to put that in. I just need to know what you want, and then when we get to the narrative reporting, actually, these will be numbered and correlated into the notebook for appendices. Is this something town board and village rep want to see with this report?
I don't see it. I think what's more important is what's not covered by hydrants and what is.
Tom?
I would agree.
Okay, all right, then I'll take that out. And in the information that's carried on the website for the Water Authority, down at the bottom of the first page and going on to the second page, you'll see in italics, this is cut right out of the website so that you can see what the policy and the actual functional work taken on by the Water Authority when it comes to hydrants, their maintenance. Hydrant installation is part of installation of a water main extension. Wanted you to see the second paragraph up from the last paragraph there. Wanted you to know that the town of Mendon is one water district basically, and then there are 5 extensions on it. Some of them are paid up, some of them are not. And also I wanted to let you know that on your studies sheet that we looked at first here, this one. Good to go. Second page. The last entry. May 2018, preliminary construction, water main estimates, town of Mendon. The Bella engineering consultant firm did a report for the town in 2018. And it is the estimates in the areas that are not currently served by public water, what the cost would be for installation. Please keep in mind that all costs associated with the district are borne by the people served in the district, in addition to the cost of the water. So as you look at this, you will see that information. Water costs separately bill. If you are served by the Monroe County Water Authority, you know you get a separate billing for that. If you are part of the district, part of your bill is the capital cost to put the water into your area. The village is one, lack of a better term, one district. And the water is put in by the water authority where extensions are done with the village. Not that it's not passed on to people, like Wolfsburgers Park, water authority's putting it in, it's going to the contractor, it'll probably be reflected in the cost of construction, like the other infrastructure, roads, sewers, drainage, etc. But it's not billed separately as it is in the village. If anybody is familiar with the Mark IV development in Cheese Factory, Clover, that was a water district prior to the village annexing that property. So those folks down there for a while still got district charges on their water consumption bill. So it's a little bit different. But this is basically in a nutshell what's going on with the water source. So as you read this, review it. If you want any more information, anything, please don't hesitate to ask. But this is what would be in the report. Unless you want to read it.
No, I agree. It's more important who doesn't have the water, how many households, does the water authority or does the town? We have 2,800 customers with water between the town and the village. How many residents are in the town total?
Well, there's about 9,500 residents, but parcels, it's about 35
In the town?
in the town. And in that report, there's a summary. Now, since then, there's been a small extension to the 5 in the right place, but that information is still. So I have to get that together.
So if you take the village out of that,
As far as
there's 800 out of the, no, looking at the customers, you're using 3,500, that include the village?
that,
It says on the front, on the first page,
I'm not sure.
the village has 861 customers, and the town has 1,937 customers. That would be individual billings going to a household or a business.
Right, it's about 2,800 in the households or businesses within the town. I'm saying how many are lacking? We're lacking 1,000, 1,500, we halfway there. This is kind of what I'm
Oh,
asking.
for the total number of houses in the town?
Yeah, because you're talking about
Without
parcels,
one.
not just parcels. Because when I said 3,500, I was talking about
Parcels, oh,
Right.
okay.
So that there isn't necessarily a house. But I believe the report to developers back in 18.
David, one of the things that we can do based on your question is take these number of customers against the data from the assessor's
Mhm.
office about how many households there are
Right.
and businesses.
Yeah, that's what I was just
Take a look
looking
at
for,
that.
how far along are. I mean,
What's our coverage
just
percentage?
what your coverage is, you know, it's hard to tell on the map because where I live, there's a stretch with 4 miles with 10 houses compared to another section that might have 20 houses.
Well, this is
Right.
we can get, I don't know electronically if we're gonna get it more than this, but this shows where the water is. So,
But you gotta connect the water to the people. Is what I think.
Yeah.
If it causes down the road with cornfields, it's somewhat, I wouldn't say useless, but for fire protection, it's hit and miss. So
Is this from county GIS or is this from the water?
this is from the water authority. GIS maintains their records, but this is what they sent to the supervisor from the water authority.
So I know that GIS has the app that has, I think it's each parcel with the hydrants on it.
So one of the things the water authority did was send us that first map that I brought in on the postal board.
Right.
You said it. And, yeah, you can get this. And in the village firehouse, there's a map right inside the main entrance of all the hydrant locations in the village, which is a little bit probably out of date by now.
Right, yeah, the-
is the village complete?
the
The
village is.
village, our fire, our primary response, like your house.
Right.
Is in the district. But the
Now,
village.
village itself is right.
And the village map didn't used to have a room. So the hydrant draw water and take all the water away from the village because it was fed down Clover Street. But now it's moved with water service. But I don't know out here where the loops are and where the
John, if I'm not mistaken, but you take the main down the road, there there's a house from that. Goes past your place, you're on board. You're a piece of the
Yeah.
bond, if you will,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I've been told is that if it comes by your house, well, they're not gonna do it with that.
It's-
You're gonna pay, for bond, obviously you're not gonna pay for usage.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, you can take Labella's 29 or 18 and double it plus, or 20, 2 and 3. And even if you started back at it, you would start construction from 26, I think the way things go, I'm just saying.
Sure.
So. You have to get water in there unless somebody finds money someplace.
I didn't mean to mislead you when I was talking about water consumption bills from water. The district piece, the bond comes on the town tax bill for your water district. So. I think I made that clear.
Maybe I should know, where's the reservoir?
It's up on Parish Road, off of 64, head east on Parish Road.
Office east from 64. Up by Harold
On
Joyce's
the
place.
south.
doesn't it?
Right behind Harold Jones.
Is it? Never knew. It's a reservoir, not a tank.
It's
Open
a
reservoir.
oh, giant water bed.
Really?
Mhm.
No.
I didn't put the address, I have the address next month, but I didn't put them down because I don't know when we get to the reporting, what's considered sensitive information, public consumption, given some of the things that's around in the world today.
Yeah.
But, every time that we cite a property for you or a risk entity for you, there's an address and a tax number that I can put Cory to put together in the data set. So if that's information the fire departments want, that's one thing, but I don't want to start redacting information from the report unnecessarily. So maybe it's better not to put some of the detail in. All right, Chief, did you want to talk of anything about where we have gaps or service here?
It's, I mean, yeah, it's hard to see on this map. But when you can see the areas that don't have hydrants. We do have a couple of developments that don't have hydrants off of Cheese Factory, Partridge Hollow, Partridge Hill, then Buggy Brook Trail off of Lang. So that's kind of unique. And then obviously Lang Path, Parish, Landing all have access challenges on top of that, very narrow roads. So. Any questions on that?
Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I if you could estimate the cost for depletion of some of these loops and arteries for water. I think it does have a bearing, obviously on fire protection, where jumping onto the tank task force, that's manpower, there's a cost associated with manpower. So you gotta kind of balance that out. That's 2 extra people times how many pieces of apparatus at least, right? I mean, it's probably 3 or 4 for an engine,
Right.
2 on each tanker, so you're looking at,
Plus the fill site, plus the dump draft site,
right?
there's a lot more that goes into it. Just looking to a hydrant.
So in,
I think there's a cost that's needs to be kind of borne out. And where's your best return for protection? Is it municipal water system, or is it, focusing more on manpower, fire department, supplementing that further in these cases?
that report broke it down street by street.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't get to, some of the streets, even if you ran water there, you still gotta get access there somehow. It's not like it's the end of the road. But also, at that point, the water authority was kind of off the record quoting $125. That's.
Did that include pumping stations for the places that are above elevation and stuff like that?
No, that was
No,
just
so that's everything
put a
below
pipe in
the-
the ground, kind of a ballpark number.
Because there's a one road off in Menenshire that doesn't have water and the rest of it does. It's because they couldn't get pressure.
You get it up the hill.
Right. You go up 64, that's gonna be all like that, all.
Do you have a map of dry hydrants?
I mean, we have one. So one. Yeah. I mean, sure. but
If you want to indicate specific areas, road names and things, the report would give us information about the cost. A rough estimate, like you're talking about Langcamp and Buggy Whip, different streets.
Right.
They're gonna be in that report with an estimate attached to them. So if you want to give us certain street names, pull that out of the report.
And the reason that report developed when it did is because we just kept getting calls over and over again. Multiple calls per week, I want public water. This is people moved here from some of the inner ring of communities that has public water. They don't necessarily find out there as well until after they move in. And
It's a terrible.
yeah, my realtor never told me that. So, and then the second question I have is, when you explain it to them, is what's it gonna cost?
Yeah.
I don't have that number. I'm not capable of coming up with that number, and that's why we had this report.
And then when they found out it was gonna cost, they all dropped off.
And every single one of them is over the comptroller's minimum, or maximum, excuse me.
Crazy.
Yes, which is, I think, $800 or $900 per household. And so you've got to have pretty much 100% buy-in from all residents in the water district.
So while it might be good to expand, we'll disagree, but the whole process to get that to happen, it's probably a very long-term thing. What it came down to was density.
Mhm.
It wasn't enough density. And so the costs per foot didn't change. So if there's 3 people sharing the load compared to 30, it's crazy per year.
To that point, does the sprinkler zoning for new construction, does that affect development and that cost sharing in the future?
I would think so.
Yes,
I would think so.
it has to affect it. And the 600-foot rule, all that,
From a hydrant, right?
right?
So any new house in that area needs to be built with sprinklers. And then a retention
Well,
source.
so actually, we work with the town and we have a set of parameters.
Yeah.
That lays it out.
Would you be able to generalize in those areas? It would probably have. to-
I think it's
sprinkler system.
2,000, 1,600 is the breakdown. And then it goes by, if you're 2,000 foot away from a approved water source, you need sprinklers and fire detection. And it goes down farther as you get closer to,
Is that a town or a state?
that's the code. State code.
That's the new.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Building.
Yeah, I mean, that's. And it's been adopted then?
It has been done.
By the time.
Well, it's state. We don't have a choice.
Yes.
So then,
So you're saying full residential fire sprinklers,
right,
and it depends on strictly water sources or size of houses, or I'm really not up on that.
it's distance from an approved water source.
And that's in place today?
It's in place right now. So we worked with the town, with the zoning board, and came up with a list of approved options, like a cistern, a sprinkler system, a pond with a dry hydrant, stuff like that, I think they give it to the applicants when they apply for the building.
The engineers to figure out how they're gonna meet their requirements.
Right.
Anything else on the water? From the water. Okay. Thank you all for that. Okay, task number 2 is the needs assessment. Last time you left, you had some things for me to check on. So here we go with where we are on those. The community right to know, tier 2 filing, requiring business and industries that use hazardous chemicals, if they store the threshold quantity above a certain point with each chemical, each hazardous material, they report it to the local community. So it goes to the Office of Emergency Management. They are the filing point in London County. Some of you might be familiar with the term of local emergency planning committee, LEPC. They produce the hazardous materials response plan to the county, and they are the recipient of these tier 2 report filings. They keep them in-house, and each fire jurisdiction that has each fire department that has jurisdiction in the address for the facility gets a copy of the notice. So I retrieved the filing from the Office of Emergency Management, emailed that to both fire chiefs and to the local district administrators to ensure that they have reports. Again, it's what has concluded, just like the Water Authority report for 2021. These are filed with the county by March 1st of the previous year. So March 1st of 2022, the 21 reports had to be into the Office of Emergency Management. So again, that information has been pushed out to the fire chiefs and the fire administrators. So it's at the firehouse and knowledgeable to the fire chiefs. Corey had a question about a fuel tank in the basement of the Frontier facility on Monroe Street. Still no word on that. Talked to a retired person who would know that.
There was.
But there was-
Confirmation that the tank is there.
Batteries are there. For the batteries for the
Yeah.
backup system. You have confirmation on the tank?
Yeah, the quantity of what it's holding is not.
So it may just be the empty tank.
And replaced it very well.
The fuel tank, fuel system, but the battery system.
Fuel tank inside Monroe Street, couple of standby generators, unknown capacity tank. That was
So that's for the generator as opposed to the batteries for the pumps. So find out about that just because we're talking about the years.
Do we know the makeup of the batteries?
Yes, it's in the report. The type of batteries.
Yes.
That is public information, but it's not accessible without a folder. So, you know, so that's why I want to make sure. you
Okay,
guys get it.
That's why we got it like that.
Yeah, and because it's such a large file, I put everything that had an X in the box for those places and printed those towns for you so that you can see it. But it goes out across 5 pages of a landscape table with towns that don't require. Shrunk. If you want to see the original, then you have it. You can get it, but.
Sounds exciting.
it's up-
What you sent was perfect.
Okay, second piece you wondered about, fuel storage regulations. DEC does regulate, fuel storage tanks above and underground for gasoline, heating oil, and propane. So I didn't pull any information out tonight. There are some places where they have to get a permit from DEC. 20,000 gallons, you know, in arenas, we're talking about gasoline stations. You're concerned about agriculture tanks, propane tanks, people get heating oil tanks in basements. So I don't really know what you want to know, and I need you to tell me what you want to know so that I can pull it back. Otherwise, you're going to just get pages of information from their website to get no rhyme or reason.
I think anything that would change our tactics on the byway.
There
So
should be a
a 275 gallon fuel oil tank in the basement isn't going to change how we operate.
no, not necessarily.
But 20,000
Second
gallons of
oil.
gasoline.
1,000 gallons.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, just what we carry for foam, how many gallons they can suppress. I don't have that number up.
All right, why don't you let me know? Reach back and let me know what you want, and I'll pull it out. Okay, state DOT, you were interested in crash reports. Just like every other agency, they changed their software. So things aren't totally accessible anymore. However, we can get for you by year going back. I don't know how far. We're gonna have to wait and see that, but for sure, 2017 forward, the number of crash reports for each year. So you're not gonna respond to all those because some of them are fender benders, some of them are deer that, you know, nobody was hurt, it's just a police report. But those will be numbers, so many
But
per
they-
year.
Did they tell you what the threshold is? Because I know that we requested for Fountain Hill in 64, and it was quite a bit lower than what we anticipated.
Yeah,
Because there's a threshold of injuries or over a certain dollar amount or.
what I looked at with a village resident who works for traffic safety for state DOT, every crash site has a little dot on it, and the yellow dot is a personal injury. The blue dot is no injury report, so it could be rear ending, waiting for the yield sign at the roundabout, it could be a deer, you know, hit my car, it could be a fender bender in the parking lot, but the number of times, the number of crashes in a year we can capture. If you want each and every report, then you can go through them and figure out what you want. I mean, it's like all or some information that might be used. If it's useful for you to know that there were this many crashes in the town of Mendon for this year, you can see some trends. I saw them in talking with this gentleman. I heard some of what he was saying in terms of how they look at these things. COVID 2020, we went from like 280 something to 105. When you look at when smartphones came out, you see the number of crash reports go up. And what his comment was to me, they go up significantly in the more urban, suburban areas, in the high traffic areas, than they do in the more rural areas. Not to mean people don't talk and drive or look at data and drive. However, you don't see the dramatic things that I think you feel we're going to see. So the circle of geography at the roundabout, for example, in 3 years, it was like 17 incidents. The Stony Lonesome and Clover, not that many, but yet more yellow dots because it's a high speed area and people aren't ready to slow down so much that they are when they're approaching the roundabout. So there's things you know intuitively that will show up in this data, but you know what's going to be useful to the town board in making decisions, what's going to help you functionally better serve the community. So there is a traffic study underway at Stony Lonesome and Clover right now. He did tell me that the traffic study for Boughton Hill and 64, the road striping is complete. There still is some signage to erect, but from numbers of accidents, types of accidents, people's concerns, that generated a traffic study. So that's coming Stony Lonesome and Clover.
Boughton Hill in 64 wasn't as dramatic as everyone anticipated. I mean, there's obviously a problem there, but it wasn't crazy out of control.
And that was sort of my request for this information is we have in our mind, what are these target hazard intersections, but qualify those, right? There's frequency, severity, and the risk that kind of comes out of both of those. I think speaks to, is this actually a target hazard, something that needs to be addressed, or is it just something that we have in our mind that's an issue?
But you decide, and you know, I can get you the year.
What if we did like 1 year out of every 5? The last 20 years. You know, can we do that? Can we do that?
For what? What
For
would
the traffic studies, or the map of the town.
I don't know.
Well, because they can go back and study.
John and I are going to work tomorrow on a information request, formally request information that I saw unofficially the other night. But the idea was, he showed me what they have and said, now what do you want? You can request the freedom of information based on what you want. It was helping me to understand what they produce. So I wrote down the number for the years 2017 to May 30th of this year. He gave me the difference between May 30th and Monday night, but that doesn't account really truly because not all the reports are in state DOT. But this is collected data from every law enforcement agency that, so for us, it would be the sheriff's office and
I guess I would defer then to the town and the village for what they really want to glean from those hazards. The four of us know we go to significant car accidents out here due to speed, remote areas, and just the nature of the roadways. But does that have a bearing on the service that you want?
I mean, not being intimately involved with the fire service and knowing all the details, what you do for this type of call or that type of call, I guess I would probably say, I would think it would be better.
well, here's a scenario. high-speed corridor, number 6 West Main and Route 15. And people try to run the red light, whatever, you know, that's an area kind of like Stony Ones and Clover where you get some high speed in. That's a predominant area for you, as well as Stony Ones. When you look at your run card and you look at the equipment, you want to make sure that obviously you have all the equipment you're going to need for a crash. You're going to need EMS assistance. So an ambulance is probably going to come, as well as the EMS that the department delivers. But how many times are you going there? Do you want mutual assistance? Are you going to need mutual assistance? Do you know from your experience that you want to change your response to something based on what you're going to see from the information from state DOT? Or is it something you know from experience?
I have to say we handle MBAs extremely well in this town. And as far as the equipment that we share and we're on, anything that comes in as a significant MBA.
Any MBA with injuries.
Right.
In the town, we both go.
Any ambulance.
And
Automatic.
So let's look at another aspect. What about fire police? Do you want some of your own there to assist prior to deputy or a trooper arriving? Is that of concern so that when we get the staffing, when it comes to transportation, you're going to say, we need more fire police?
So one of our issues is we get one deputy. Unless it's a significant accident for the board. So, right. So typically we get one deputy and the deputy is doing the report and we take care of traffic, which is, yeah.
So in the staffing, when we get to here's transportation is a risk. What do you need for staffing? What do you need for equipment? What do you have versus what you want, what you need for these incidents? That's important to the town board because it speaks to some of the things that you might not have or some of the functionality is diminished because you generally have more staffing. You don't have the technical ability within your staffing to do what you want to do. So everything's interrelated. So please think about the other pieces that come into play. But I don't know what we're going to gain from DOT that's going to be helpful.
Right.
I don't think we're gonna get anything that we don't already know.
We know, but how do you show it? How do you? We know. It's somebody else understand.
Well, you
How
can
do you-
make everybody.
Right.
understand.
Well, that's what.
Yeah, so
So I hate to say it, but I think we almost need a number for every year of the entire town. And we kind of got to break that down by personal injury versus just report. And
okay, let's get the number for the year.
Yeah.
And then can you, in your incident reports, pull out your EMS piece to see if some of those relate?
we
just have it. You already gave us information on the policy. Does it show MBAs?
Well, I would argue that just because we didn't get dispatched to it, doesn't mean that that risk isn't present. So,
Right.
But
You
is
didn't
it-
get dispatched. I agree.
Right.
You should have been dispatched.
we might think, maybe we should have been,
Right.
maybe there's a area that has a low severity of crashes, but a high frequency, where it is just reports, but that doesn't mean that it's not a problem intersection because one person getting killed in a car accident. is
No.
a tragedy.
But is
Right.
it outside the scope of?
Yeah, that's what I was just.
There is the opposite
Where-
right there. And that's the hard part, how much stuff do we go to that we shouldn't have been at? I mean, throw it
Right.
back.
But if we're trying to frame the need for staffing, we have to look at the risk.
But the
We don't-
property damage MBA doesn't
It's not
require.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, that's,
right, but we don't staff or hope to staff the fire department for what we go on frequently. It's what we might have to go on.
Maybe this will help you. One of the things you asked me to do was find out EMS calls for your call volume. Or what calls, not the type of calls, but of your call volume, how many of those are EMS related, that you're going there because it's an EMS call and the fire department dispatch to provide EMS. And I'm working with 911 to pull those out, because what they initially sent was the raw data of all the calls for the year. Well, because EMS is one of the properties, they should be able to run a report generated on search for EMS. So I'm working with them right now on that, and maybe that would be helpful, because those will correlate. I can ask for those that are correlated to the transportation incident, if that will help.
And I think you would have to, those will be EMD coded, and like car crash is an EMS
Yeah.
incident, but it's really a fire response.
Yeah, and you're going,
Yeah.
and part of what you're going with is an EMS. I mean,
Right.
you're going for rescue EMS.
Okay.
And, you know, fire suppression from a crash.
Well, yeah, hazard cleanup,
Yeah.
scene security. Yeah.
But I can get the number of transportation incidents for the year, we can go back to 911 and get the EMS response, where EMS is attached to your dispatch, and see what happens with that. Is that okay to start?
Also, probably one unit. Probably two or just, you got any EMS call in the town?
Our district, yeah.
Yeah, you can't climb them all, but there must be, I've forgotten, it's been a while since I've done it, but the priorities, like
So-
1, 2.
Yeah, they changed all.
Oh,
They
they
changed
changed
all that. And now they've broken it down by type of EMS call, I guess. So, but you go to everything except for MHAs,
In the village.
mental hygiene.
Ours, ours is structured around priority calls, and then if the ambulance is out of district.
How often is the ambulance
Staffed or here.
Right.
staffed?
So
So here, I
it's-
mean, things parked in the barn, staffed. Out of district is, no, not.
I would.
So you're saying it's not a district? You know what I'm saying?
How often is it available?
So it could be still here, but on staff, so it's out of district, well,
Yeah, I know.
it's, still- I'm asking, it does.
Staff and not frequency.
So it's you that it's most of the staff.
But don't they have
They have staff.
correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they have staff there for the ambulance 24/7?
So ideally, but they're having staffing issues. So sometimes, and obviously, lately it's been frequent, they'll have just a paramedic on. And they'll request mutual aid for the ambulance, and then a paramedic will respond to the flight car.
So the transport's being done by another agency, but the paramedic is going to the call.
And that's, I mean, that's a recent issue. you know. But they're supposed to be staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days. But then they always end it.
In the interest of time,
Yes.
okay, let's just finish up here. I'm gonna group the risks in the target hazards, like transportation, hazardous materials. There's about 5 or 6. And then there are naturally occurring risks. So I took a look at some information about risk assessment, needs assessment, and trying to organize all of our information in a way that can be graphically depicted for you that makes sense. So that's in progress. That will continue. The fire department information will continue to follow. And we'll get what we can of state DOT for you from 911 on EMS calls. Fire departments, you're going to put your tanker task force together first so that we understand what that is separate from the mutual assistance. And any outstanding assignments that were due so far have come in. So the village and the town have caught up with all of that. See if you look on your forecast here that finances are coming in in a future meeting, but been working on that for quite a while now, and that's going to pretty much take up, pieces of 2 meetings to deal with it effectively for you. Is there anything else from around the committee members here that you want to bring to attention of the group tonight? Are there any outstanding questions from anything that we've covered? Anybody on Zoom? Any comment? No. Okay, all right, we're good. Please note that the next meeting is September 28th, so that's back to our 2-week schedule. I hope you all enjoyed your week break. Thanks very much.
Don't worry, I'll-